our good sister Keke Palmer. She has been on an amazing media tour promoting her new book called, I have it here. It's called Master of Me, honey. It's called Master of Me by Keke Palmer. Look at her. She is that girl. Okay. And throughout her media tour, she has been dropping gems left, right, middle, center, all the ways. Okay. But we're going to focus on the interview she did with Shannon Sharpe on the Shannon Sharpe podcast. She discussed how her parents helped manage her money because she was a child star. Mm-hmm. And then also about sacrifice, because I think Rebecca and I, as we've said a million times, we come from Caribbean families, Caribbean culture, immigrant culture. So we know about sacrifice. So I'm going to first play this clip where she explains how her parents manage her money.
And his parents stole his money. So they made the Coogan account within our industry to help kids have some money. It's like 10%, I think, or something like that. And so that always was there, regardless of anything else. And then on top of that, you know, my parents rationed me out an allowance, but they also rationed out my older sister an allowance as well. You know, and I think the thing about it, somebody can say, okay, but that was your money. Yeah, but we're a family and everybody sacrificed for me to be where I'm at. My dad gave up his pension. Okay, he had worked at the company he worked at for over 15 years, gave up his pension for me to have opportunity for my dreams. My mother, they gave up everything. She gave up everything so she could travel with me and do what she needed to do with me. So how I feel about it is what's mine is theirs, what's theirs is mine. Right. And I would do it again. I would give up and sacrifice 20 more years of my life working in this industry so that I could provide and we could have the business we had today.
Can you play the other one too, just so we could just talk about it as a whole? You're muted, my love. You're muted.
Her next clip is her talking about sacrifice.
Write down their goals, what they want to accomplish in life. But very few people are willing to write down what they're willing to sacrifice to achieve those goals. You had a dream and you wrote down your goals, what you wanted to become. But you say, you know what I'm willing to give up? I'm willing to give up being a high school student. I'm willing to give up being a college student. I'm willing to give up what a normal 17, 18, 20, 22-year-old to accomplish those goals. Do you understand what that means? Your parents, I don't know if they've told you how proud they are of you. I don't know if your sister has ever told you how proud they are of you, but they are.
You know, my brother told me when we went to my sister's graduation, he said, the time was now. And you were the one to do it. I don't know if you know, I don't know if you realize, but you changed our lives. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, you know, I was 7 when he was born. I'm a lot older than him. Mm-hmm. I never know how he's seen this or look, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I know my brother used to tell his friends when he was 6, my sister's True Jackson BP. That's all, you know, I know that he thought of it. But he said, you know, whatever prayers that were prayed about us, whatever was done, whatever our ancestors did, the moment is now. You've done it. You've changed it for the Palmers forever. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, man, it's crazy. And I think that, look, you can look at it as I'm Keke Palmer, but I think a lot of people have had this. We may not know their names, but people that's watching this, they done gave up stuff for their family. Mm-hmm. My dad and my mom, they gave up stuff for their family.
Correct.
My dad, he was accepted to UCLA. He didn't go because my grandmother needed him. Mm. My mom had an opportunity to go to school at Juilliard. She didn't go because my father needed her. They decided to do certain things for the community, and it was all paid back and then some. And that's how I truly believe in things. I believe there is no reward without sacrifice. And sometimes that's hard for people to understand and accept. But there are many nights where I was lonely and I cried and I had nobody. There was many moments where I felt like I couldn't make it. I don't know what I'm going to do. But then I said, you know what? I'm here for a reason. And I gotta push through this. So I did.
So you heard, like, one thing I will say about Keke Palmer, and I was telling Shayla this yesterday, she articulates herself so well. And there's just certain things that, like, I could try and attempt to put into my own words, but the way she described it and just basically like just put it into words. I was sitting there, I'm like, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, wow, good job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to say, you know how there's always like, you could watch that video and think one thing, and there's always going to be somebody else who thinks of something differently. So I was scrolling on Threads, like literally 5 minutes before we started recording, and I saw this and I screenshotted it to make sure that I say it here. So Keke Palmer, this person posted that Keke Palmer had a father that allowed her to pay his bills. Of course, she feels unworthy of being with a provider. She's been the provider her entire life. That's trauma speaking, not wisdom, right? So people in the comments are like, what do you mean? He was the provider, took out his 401k prior to making a lot of money. Did you watch the entire interview? And so it's just crazy to me how two people can watch the same thing and think differently.
Yeah, I just want to mention what Rebecca's talking about is a clip that we did not show where she did discuss how she doesn't believe that her man needs to make the same amount of money as she does because of the fact that she was a child star, right? So she was making 40K per show. Like,
yeah.
So imagine that over time. Now she's 31. She cannot expect someone that, blew up and started making a lot of money during their adult life, like 20s, 30s, to be on the same level. So that's what that person was commenting on.
And so I just wanted to tell you that because I was like, that's crazy. How could you watch that? And that's the thought that you came to your head. But whatever, do you, I guess. I wanted to talk about the first clip that we showed where she talked about sacrifice. Or was that the second clip?
The second was about sacrifice.
Right. So this, like Shayla and I discussed this yesterday, like how, yes, a lot of times when we think of Black people, we include all groups of people. But then I feel like sometimes when you get to certain topics, that's where you kind of see the division between Black Americans and Black like Caribbeans and like, just minorities kind of like, right? So when she said sacrifice, me and Shayla was like, you hit the head on the nail. But the point that I made to Shayla yesterday is that the difference, and I'm not saying that my parents did not love me or did not allow me to spread my wings and do what I wanted. If I wanted to, let's say, be an actress, I do not see my parents dropping everything at a hat to drive me to auditions. Like, and that's not to say that that's not like they wouldn't support my dreams or anything like that, but it's just like there's a realism, right? So I feel like for my parents, they'd be like, we got to pay bills. We got to put food on the table. Like, we come from a culture where you got to work, 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 work. There's no time for play. And that would have been looked as something or a time to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Caribbeans have that connotation of like, they do push their kids to strive for fields that are sure in income. You know what I'm saying? It's always like that life or death. There is no middle ground. There is no time to play. Like you said, like if I sacrificed to come here, right, was for you to have a better opportunity. And to them, not all, because we can't generalize, but a majority of them, that means sticking to a generic career, right? A lawyer, a doctor, or whatever, something that at the end of the day, when you graduate, you will get a job and bills will be paid. Because not all we want, but a majority of them just want stability, especially if they grew up low income, could barely make ends meet. You raise your kid with that focus. Like, I just want you to be able to not live paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. And the point that really just got to me when she said there is no reward without sacrifice, because the amount of things that I have sacrificed, oh my God. And I'm not even like successful for real, but I have missed out on a lot of things that people my age were just out and about living life. I couldn't do them, right? I couldn't just go to whatever college I wanted to because, number one, my mom did not know what a FAFSA was. I didn't know nothing that had to do with college. Like, I was the secretary of the house, and until this day, I still am, right? But then again, I also think about the sacrifices that my mom made, right? Like, I cannot put it all on like just me, because my mom also made sacrifices, right? Like, she came here not knowing the language, right? And she still to this day doesn't know English a lot for real, but she busted her ass working out of factory jobs. You know what I'm saying? Now she has sciatica. She can't work as she used to because of that hard labor, but she sacrificed her and her body for me to be able to go to college, right? It may not have been the college that I wanted to, right? Like I may had to bust my behind to figure out how to get there, but she made a sacrifice. We all sacrifice things, and it's just like, whew, my God, today.
Girl. And like to that point, it's just for me being the firstborn one, being the firstborn to go to an actual university and graduate from a 4-year college too. Like, I just sacrifice is something that we unfortunately just have to do. And like sometimes like when I see the things that I have to do or things that I have to accept, and then like I see the things that my sister doesn't because everything falls on me, like, yes, could I be like, what's the word? Could I be upset? Not even like upset, like, or like resentful. I could, but at the same time, like, it's just something that unfortunately I've just accepted as time has gone on, right? So when she was talking about how the funds were used to also like pay for her sister's college and do all this other stuff, there were some people who were like, there's like, even Shannon was like, so you didn't feel like that's like kind of weird that like your parents just used your money, like you automatically became the provider. And it's just like, especially in our households, it's like when you do end up getting that stable income, your money is kind of everybody's.
It's expected, especially like she also mentioned her parents used to make 40K a year. She was making that episode. So how can you not expect her to help her parents? Because at the end of the day, like her parents are sacrificing, right? They moved from Chicago to LA, right? And of course, like there is no reward without risk. Like they had to, if they hadn't made that move, then she probably wouldn't have been the successful person that she is now. And I also relate to that because I don't make a lot of money compared to my counterparts and what I'm surrounded with at work. But for me, honey, I be feeling like, girl, I make money. But you know why? That's because I'm just not living paycheck to paycheck. But when you are raised in a paycheck to paycheck household, sometimes you can get like that mentality of like, oh, I can't spend a dollar because, I don't know when I'm going to get my next check. But when you do start making that money and you see your family needs support, how can you not support them? Like, I think that's just a part, like, what? You're going to let your parents and sisters struggle when you can help? And also, like, yes, we're doing this. You're doing this for your sister. But then when we have our own kids, their experience is going to be way smoother. And I know I used to hate this because my mom always used to be like, when I was your age, I had to go here to get water and all of this like stuff. I'm like, okay, mom, but no tea, no shade. When I help my kids fill out that FAFSA, I'm gonna be like, when I was your age, my mom did not help me with FAFSA. So literally, the older you get, is like, we're gonna turn like our parents, honey. Some things will change, but I'm gonna let them know.
Exactly. And I just want to say my last point with FAFSA, like, because I was I was the first in my household to go to an actual university. I couldn't go to my parents and ask them, what does this mean? Literally, I will never forget, and I will forever be grateful for a girl I went to high school with. Her name's Katie. So I don't think Katie will ever see this, but Katie, if you ever see this, shout out to you, girl. And her mother used to always be on the phone with me, helping me fill out FAFSA. So it's like, at least I know now, like my sister, you have questions about FAFSA, I'll be like, okay, this is what it means, right? Or like, when I have kids, I'll be like, okay, so like, do you want to check this off? Like, I don't think you should, but do you think that's like, we'll talk about things because I get it. I've been through the experience and I have that understanding. But baby, Keke was dropping gems for real.
She was.
I should go listen to that interview, especially if you ever want understanding on some thoughts that you may have. I think that she articulated herself extremely well.
Yeah. And she also gave me hope. Like she was like a walking motivational book because I love me motivational books.
Yes, Shayla. So
next on the,
I just wanted to touch really quickly. She was also talking about like Shayla talked about it earlier about how she was mentioning 50-50 and how she's always been that provider. And at the age of 12, she became a millionaire. So it's like, she can't expect that from other people. And I love that she said that, because every time people have had that conversation about 50-50 and stuff like that, I usually stick to the back, because my parents have done 50-50 their whole entire life to support me and my sister, to support the household, to put food on the table. 50-50 has always been a thing that I've seen. So when people are like, I don't want 50-50 or anything like that, I just sit there and I'm like, why? Like, life is expensive. Inflation is a real thing. I can't expect a man to pay for the house, put food on the table, and me, I'm just sitting there living la vida loca. Like, it's not realistic.
I don't think it even has to do with inflation. I think as social media becomes a part of our life, people get so like tunnel vision of social media life. Sweetie, you are not these people. You're not getting millions of dollars. Okay. The majority of America, like Rebecca says, touch grass and roll in it. Okay. The majority of America needs a 2 people income, point blank, period. Argue with who you got to argue with. Yes, if you are blessed to be in that 1% where you don't got to work, okay. But for you to sit there and bash or think you're better because you have 1 income instead of 2 is like, girl, next. Or boy, I call everybody girl. So anyway.
Exactly.